Thunder Bay police officer found guilty of assault finally receives his punishment. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Constable Andrew Franco has managed to avoid jail time or house arrest. Today, the judge handed down a suspended sentence for the officer, along with 2 years probation and 150 hours of community service. Franco was found guilty in 2023 on one count of assault causing bodily harm. The sentencing hearing was held over a year ago, and the judge took his time in order to bring restorative justice. The disturbing incident took place at a City Hall bus shelter in April of 2022 and was caught on police body cam video.
What the hell, man?
Nothing.
Hey, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, what are you doing? You can't be drinking in public.
Stop, get off! You don't push back on an officer, man.
The man was knocked unconscious and was taken to hospital by EMS, where he was diagnosed with a fractured cheekbone. Franco was suspended by the police force soon after the incident, and the SIU later decided there was enough evidence to lay criminal charges. Franco pleaded not guilty at his trial, but the judge rendered a guilty verdict. Franco's lawyer had asked for a conditional discharge for his client and 200 hours of community service. The Crown was asking for 3 to 4 months in custody, either behind bars or by house arrest. The judge's decision falls somewhere in the middle and does leave Franco with a criminal record. Now that this process is over, the officer may now face additional punishment under the Police Services Act. The Thunder Bay District Municipal League wrapped up its AGM today with speeches from the area's provincial and federal representatives. They spoke to delegates on issues like healthcare, highway safety, and how Canada is dealing with the Trump tariffs. Jonathan Wilson reports.
Discussions on day 2 of the conference focused on recruitment and retention, as well as natural asset management. Delegates were also given updates about emergency services in the district by EMS Chief Shane Muir. Following those presentations, delegates were addressed by politicians from the upper levels of government. Newly re-elected MPP for Thunder Bay Atikokan, Kevin Holland, spoke about healthcare in the region.
Over the past 2.5 years, and certainly during the recent election, I have heard that healthcare is top of mind for all of us. The pandemic highlighted shortfalls in our healthcare system. The demand for more doctors and nurses, coupled with the sudden surge in critical patients, stretched our resources to their limits.
The re-elected MPP for Thunder Bay Superior North took the podium next. Lise Vaugeois spoke about the importance of improving highway safety.
I think there's some contradictory evidence about what is happening, but what we do know from Auditor General reports is that there's a conflict of interest in that many trucking companies are able to license their own drivers, test and license their own drivers. Now that is a conflict of interest.
Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu gave an update on what the federal government has been doing to combat economic warfare from our southern neighbours.
We have seen some concessionary language coming out about tariffs and deferring tariffs to April 2nd. My argument is until those tariffs are removed from the playing board, we need to hold firm, we need to be strong, and I do want to thank Premier Ford for his comments as well, along with the other premiers who are saying that we actually need to stand up and we need to be able to take measures that are going to protect Canadians, protect our economy, and protect our communities, quite frankly.
With the end of the conference, the next time politicians from all the communities in the region will get together is at the NOMA AGM starting on April 23rd. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
The Supreme Court of Canada has struck down an Ontario law that limits spending on third-party election advertising, ruling that it violates the constitutional right to vote. In 2021, Premier Doug Ford's government changed the rules governing third-party advertising ahead of a provincial election, stretching the restricted spending period from 6 months to a year. The government argued the extension was necessary to protect elections from outside influence. Today, the top court dismissed the government's appeal and struck down that part of the law. The head of the Thunder Bay CEDC says a proposed lithium processing facility would be a huge opportunity for the city and the region. Frontier Lithium announced plans earlier this week to build the $700 million plant on the former OPG property on Mission Island. Justin Hardy has more.
With the announcement from both Canada and Ontario of a combined $240 million in conditional funding for Frontier Lithium's proposed lithium refinery project, local business leaders are excited for the benefits such a project could bring to the city. CEO of the Thunder Bay Community Economic Development Commission, Jamie Taylor, was at PDAC during the announcement and says this is a very important opportunity for Thunder Bay.
Definitely the city needs those jobs, but more importantly, what this opportunity brings is new industry to the city, new tax base. It also will bring a whole new supply chain around the processing facility, and honestly, it's going to be a generational project once it's complete.
In addition to Frontier's planned $700 million facility on Mission Island, 3 other mining companies have their sights set on building lithium refineries on Lake Superior. Avalon Advanced Materials is planning to build a facility on Lakeshore Drive. Green Technology Metals is looking to build one on Maureen Street near the grain elevators, and RockTech Lithium has announced a refinery location on the Red Rock waterfront. Taylor says all 4 would be more than welcome.
Well, I think the government has talked about their investments to ensuring that they have a robust supply chain for the Made in Ontario battery. With Frontier Lithium's announcement, that definitely does put Thunder Bay on the map as part of that. Will there be other companies, and can the city welcome other companies to do the same thing? I think that as long as we have the investments available to be able to make that happen, the city has space and the city will welcome more industry to Thunder Bay.
If all goes according to plan, Frontier's lithium processing facility could be up and running by 2030. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Police have charged another person in connection to a major cybercrime investigation. 31-year-old Jordan Maurice was arrested yesterday by OPP in Midland, Ontario, north of Barrie. He's charged with distributing intimate images without consent. Maurice is the 13th person charged as part of this investigation. More than 170 total charges have been laid, and police know of more than 100 victims. Anyone with additional information is asked to contact Thunder Bay Police or Crime Stoppers. The Francophone Aurora Borealis School Board has announced the cancellation of its planned expansion project at La Vérendrye High School after bids came in significantly over budget. The plans, which were first announced in late October, were to add a new gym to the school and other renovations. The estimated price tag at that time was $5.3 million, and the project had approval and funding from the provincial and federal governments. But following a call for tenders, board officials say they had to make the difficult decision to cancel the project as the gap between the bids and their budget was insurmountable. Details about those bids haven't been disclosed. Board Chair Claudette Gleason expresses deep disappointment about the decision. The board thanks all of those involved, including the Ministry of Education, for their initial support. Confederation College has been forced to scale back enrollment in its aviation flight management program. The course normally accepts 60 aspiring pilots every year, but that number is being reduced to 35 this fall. The news was confirmed by college officials at yesterday's job fair at the Aviation Center of Excellence. There continues to be a high demand for new pilots due to ongoing staffing shortages in the airline industry. Enrollment for the college's aircraft maintenance program will remain unchanged, but the flight management program will be reduced significantly, at least for the coming year. Associate Dean Matt Bunn says it's because of flight training delays for the current group of students.
The reason for those delays does have a little bit to do with the hardships of retaining qualified flight instructors. It's also a result of the pandemic, which we're still dealing with even years later after that. And of course, the Thunder Bay Airport did have a major rehabilitation project on their main runway a couple of years ago, which slowed us down a bit with our flight training. So all these cumulative things have impacted our flight training. So we are taking 35 students this fall and hope to get caught up in doing that.
Bunn says they hope to have the flight management program back up to full enrollment in 2026. Some sad news today for local children and toy lovers of all ages. Signs went up today at the local Toys R Us outlet telling shoppers that the doors will soon close for good. The large store in the Thunder Centre first opened in May of 2013 amid much fanfare from local families, but the company has been struggling financially in recent years. Back in January, the parent company announced the closure of 5 Toys R Us stores across Ontario, but Thunder Bay wasn't on the list at that time. Apparently that's now changed. No one from the company responded to interview requests today, but local employees say the doors will close in about 2 months or whenever the stock runs out. Tomorrow is International Women's Day, a time to celebrate all women and girls while also recognizing the hardships and barriers they continue to face around the world. In acknowledgement, a flag raising was held at City Hall this morning. This year's theme is on the importance of amplifying women's voices. The day has been celebrated around the world since 1911, beginning as a protest over working conditions. Northwestern Ontario Women's Centre Executive Director Gwen O'Reilly says despite the day being recognized for more than a century, most women around the world still don't have full equality.
Different groups of women experience different kinds of oppression, but I would say one universal issue is gender-based violence. Women experience both intimate partner violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, many other forms of violence.
It's important that we celebrate Women each year because we exist. We're half the population, our rights matter. There's still discrepancies in the safety of women in our communities. There's still discrepancies in the wages we earn. We need to celebrate that women continually grow and change society when we have voices.
There are several International Women's Day events happening in the city tomorrow, including at Goods & Co. and the Thunder Bay Art Gallery. City Parks officials are encouraging local skaters to get out and use Thunder Bay's outdoor boarded rinks this weekend because they may not last into March break next week. City crews have been trying to maintain as many rinks as possible as the mercury rises at this time of year. As of today, many sites remain open, but with warmer weather in the forecast, parks officials say the season could soon end. Residents are encouraged to check the city's outdoor rinks map for real-time updates on rink closures for their neighborhoods. Fortunately, the refrigerated outdoor rink at Prince Arthur's Landing will remain open through March as it can withstand warmer conditions. And with that, we turn to our current weather conditions now. Fiona, it was a very windy day out there today, but I will say March, the sun, it starts to get stronger and you could feel it.
Yes, you could, and it was a good thing because as you said, it was a little bit cooler, but what we noticed more than anything was the wind, keeping the wind chills a little bit nippy. Now, the overnight low, fairly seasonal, pretty close to what we saw the night before, a low of -16, wind chills of -21, which is, let's face it, cold, a little below normal, but definitely not something that we hadn't seen. But temperatures during the day were substantially cooler than yesterday, and we had variable clouds. It was at times mainly sunny and at others mostly cloudy. We topped out with a high of -7 and wind chills of -13 because the winds were anywhere from 18 kilometers per hour from the north-northwest all the way up to 61 k. That was between about 12:30 and 1 p.m. today. It got very blustery. I know I was out there just at that time at its windiest moments, and it was cold. Now, if we take a look at what's going on across the region, pretty consistent temperatures for the most part, but as Ryan mentioned, sunshine, and that has been glorious today. Red Lake has just a few clouds. We've got nothing but sun, though, as you head further south into Fort Frances through Dryden, Upsala, Armstrong, Greenstone. Temperature-wise, well, it's definitely a little warmer to the south. We've got -7 and wind chills of about -11 in Fort Frances along Grand Portage. Along the North Shore, a little bit cooler, and then Sault Ste. Marie, where they've been dealing with periods of light snow off and on throughout the day. They too are at -7 and a wind chill of -11. As you head further north, we're into the minus double digits with the -10, -12 range, and wind chills there are hovering between -13 and -15 at this hour. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, it's going to be very cold tonight. -19 and a wind chill of -26. That is almost 10 degrees colder than what it should be overnight. That's partially due to those clear skies, and winds will start out about 40 kilometers per hour, but will taper off a little bit overnight. So, as I said, very cold to start the weekend. However, we will be warming through Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a slow process to start, so if you are looking to enjoy the ice in some of your activities. Maybe go ice fishing, maybe go skating or something like that. Saturday, very good day to do it. But as we head to Sunday, the temperatures start to warm, and there is still a risk of wet flurries. But as those temperatures rise, that chance of wet flurries turns into a chance of rain, and we could see double-digit highs by Monday, the first day of March break.
Well, Mother Nature continues to toy with us here in the
she does.
back half of February and into March now. All right, thanks a lot, Fiona. Okay, well, the Canadian government unveiled an aid package today for businesses that are affected by all of this tariff talk coming from south of the border. We'll have the details on that when we return.
They'll be met with the exact same tariff unless they drop it. And that's what reciprocal means.